Hey guys, Kritika here, registered dietitian, and if you've ever been concerned about consuming GMOs in your food, please watch this video because I'm really going to break down for you exactly what you need to know in understandable terms. A lot of people are afraid of GMOs, and there's some people that are really for GMOs, and that makes the people that are afraid of GMOs a little bit more skeptical. And I want you to know I have no conflicts of interest. It really benefits me as a dietitian to see people healthy and happy, so keep watching. Genetic engineering is the intentional insertion of a gene into a plant or animal cell to get that plant or animal to do something different. With genetic engineering, we're able to selectively breed plants to our advantage in a more sophisticated process than they did way back in the day. Imagine that you have a house and everything in that house is red. The toasters are red, the furniture is red. Then imagine you have a separate house, everything inside that is blue. With GMOs, it basically allows us to select, for example, a red toaster within that red house and put that into the blue house. Everything else is left unchanged, so everything else is blue. You're just taking that selective gene and putting it into the blue house without altering anything else in that house. Sometimes a product can take up to 10 years of testing before it's actually put on the market. The FDA, the USDA, and the EPA, they review and they oversee GMO safety in the US, but there's also other international safety organizations. And the reason that they also look over and oversee GMOs is because they want to know, well, how would this product react if it was transported from the United States to Canada, for example. So international bodies also have regulations and guidances on how a product would be assessed for safety to ensure that the products are safe to export. So some of the things that they look at when they're testing these GMOs for safety, these GMO crops, are they're looking at the safety of the gene that they're inserting. They look at the safety of the plant. Both of them must have a history of safe use. They look at what happens when you consume the gene. Is it digestible? Is it similar to that related to an allergen? Also, they study the environmental impact as a part of that approval process. And one thing that also interests me when I looked this up in the research is that there is no human disease or illness that has ever been linked to consuming a GMO food. So that really struck me because a lot of people, including myself in the past, were really afraid of GMOs. But the more that I researched this, the more that I learned that when it comes to our health, specifically our health, and we'll talk about other things, the cons of GMOs later, but when it comes to human health, there really shouldn't be a debate because there's no impact negatively or positively of GMOs in our food. There's nothing that it's going to do to our health that would be negative or positive. However, we'll talk about some pros of GMOs later in this video too that actually might have a positive effect on our health, but we'll get into that. I want to talk about one herbicide and one pesticide that are commonly used in GM products, and the first one is glyphosate, and this is commercially known as Roundup. Glyphosate is put on crops to protect them against weeds and insects, and it's able to kill the weed and kill the insects without harming the actual crop. Therefore, farmers can use less chemical treatment. Then there's something else called BT, in which the crop is able to create its own pesticide to resist insects. So it doesn't harm the crop and it doesn't harm us to consume it, but it'll harm the insects that are trying to eat it. And that may sound really concerning, but think about it this way. You know, chocolate is something that we love and we eat, and it doesn't have any harm to human health. But if a dog eats chocolate, that can be toxic for them. They can actually die. And this BT pesticide is actually also approved in organic foods. In 2016, a bill was signed mandating all food manufacturers to start labeling their food as GMO. And I understand where the fear is coming from, because when people are going around and messing with your food, that can create fear. And on the other hand, some people are really against it because the food industry could possibly use this as a scare tactic to mark up their prices. Food industry may take advantage of the fact that we are so scared and so fearful about GMOs that they can start labeling their product, this is non-GMO, this is non-GMO, and this is non-GMO, but you know what? We're gonna upcharge you for that. At the end of the day, there's actually no risk to human health for consuming GMO foods. And as a dietitian, it really sucks for me to see people being motivated out of fear and misinformation and pay more for food that should be affordable. When it comes to our safety and when it comes to our health, we should not be concerned about GMOs. But let's talk about some of the issues with GMOs, like Roundup. being used and heavily relied on, which may create herbicide resistance. This isn't necessarily exclusive to GMOs, is probably an issue in all kind of farming. Another pro is enhanced nutritional quality. So this is what I was talking about earlier, that some GMO foods might be better for our health. So an example of this is high oleic soybean. And if you guys have noticed, when you go to the grocery store and you get vegetable oil, if you look on the ingredients on the back, it will usually say soybean oil. And that's because all vegetable oils are soybean oil. But what they've come out with is this GM food to have a higher monounsaturated content. The soybean, like I said, just has been modified to have a higher content of these good unsaturated fats and have a lower amount of saturated fatty acids. And when I was doing research on this, I realized that the FDA actually put in a ban for trans fats. And I'm like, finally. I know that there's still trans fats in certain peanut butters. I still see that on the market. If you look on the ingredients list, you'll see hydrogenated oils on some peanut butters. Check your peanut butter, by the way. But the awesome thing is that this high oleic soybean may actually eliminate our need to use trans fats, because trans fats is usually found in like baked goods. It's found in foods to make them increase their shelf life so that it doesn't go bad so quickly. But with this high oleic soybean, it kind of does the same thing without the trans fat. Another thing I want to address in this video is glyphosate. It was deemed a carcinogen by the IR committee, but it's important to note that they didn't look at risk. They only looked at hazard. Hazard only tells us that something is a probable carcinogen. It doesn't look at risk. There's correlation, but there's no causation. It was unable to be confirmed as a carcinogen in humans. Also, pickled veggies are on the list of probable carcinogen. They don't look at will it cause cancer, it's just is there a hypothesis that it could cause cancer, and that's the difference between hazard versus risk, which they weren't looking at risk. And health and safety organizations would have taken that into consideration. In terms of herbicide resistance and these weeds being tolerant to glyphosate, that might be something that we have to worry about. But in terms of our health, it's not something we need to worry about. When I was studying for my master's degree, I gave a presentation on GMOs without really having all the facts, because there was just so much misinformation out there. And I was kind of like, I fed into that misinformation, and I gave a really embarrassing presentation and spread more misinformation about GMOs and spread some fear about it. I really regret that, because I wish I had more of the facts, and that's one reason I wanted to make this video, so you guys can have the facts. Focusing so much on GMO foods kind of takes away from the fact that we need to be paying attention to other things. We need to be paying attention to just eating more fruits and vegetables in general, and have protein with every meal, have healthy fats, choose non-fat dairy products, and those are the kinds of things that are gonna make a massive difference on our health, rather than worrying about GMOs. I really wanted to make my next video about the soy controversy, so I wanted to make this video first so I could talk, because soy, GMO, but anyways, you don't have to know my whole life story. Subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. I try to post videos weekly. I'll see you guys very soon, next week, hopefully. All right, bye.